Now, taking a look at the MA in a little bit more depth, this is pretty common across US universities. It's going to require at least 45 credit hours, which, as I mentioned for us, that's a minimum of 1 year of completion. Now, this degree is going to culminate in a written thesis or a final project. Now, this MFA, I'm going to quickly go over this because I know that many of you are looking for those short-term programs, and an MFA is going to be about 2 years. So that's going to be a little bit longer. But do keep in mind that programs that offer some online accessibility, if you would like, you can spend time on campus and then go back online. So you do have some flexibility there. The other thing to keep in mind is to find out from the school itself if you can take more classes in order to complete it in a shorter amount of time. That's not necessarily going to be accessible at SCAD, but it may at different universities. It is going to depend. Now let's look at graduate requirements. This is going to often include the application and non-refundable fee. You're going to need to have that bachelor's degree or an equivalent of one, and evidence of English proficiency. Again, universities are going to be looking for a portfolio, and that's going to be by far and away the most important part of your application. So in this research phase, it's important to know that so you can take a look and see what that portfolio entails. Because say you are interested in that MA in animation, well, if that portfolio requires massive amounts of high quality animation work, you need to make sure that you can actually come up with that. And the fun part about graduate programs is you could have been animating on the side, you could have taken a short program with another school or just classes on your own. We've even had students come to us saying, hey, we've been watching YouTube videos, learning it ourselves, and now we're ready to go in a more professional and structured manner. That can sometimes be enough to come up with that portfolio. So it's really important to understand what are the expectations for that element of the application. Then it's also going to require a resume, statement of purpose, letters of recommendation, sometimes an interview, and then that certificate of funds and sponsorship letter are referencing to that visa. Now, this all comes at a later date, but again, I think it's important to understand what the process is as a whole and understand it's going to take some time. So make sure that you're starting to research with plenty of time to understand this, with plenty of time to apply. Make sure that it's not stressful for you or the admissions committee simply based on a timing issue. Now, the other important element of a school resource is their international office. These international advisors are going to be there to help you with visas, health insurance, helping you adjust to the US culture, organizing events and trips. It's just a really good resource to be aware of. They might even be able to answer some questions beforehand as you are researching these programs, what they're going to entail, and if they're in line with the type of visa or scholarship that you are on. Now, also keep in mind that many universities offer a language preparation program. And this one right here is through SCAD. It's an online program, but it can be a great way to start your experience before you come to campus. And just kind of keep that in mind that there's often those little short programs that will help you, again, adjust, gain those skills, you learn, you meet other people who are interested in those fields, just something to keep in mind. Now, tips. I would say first and foremost, finding the right fit is so important. I would recommend beginning your search by looking at universities and degree programs, not necessarily qualifying that they must be a short-term degree program. And the reason for that is because you get an idea of what is out there. And often it's sometimes unclear whether a university offers that as a short-term stint. As I mentioned before, sometimes students are able to take more classes than a fully enrolled university student usually takes, and that can cut time off. I know that even for myself, my graduate program was technically supposed to take 2 years. I finished it in 1 year. So it is possible. And I would personally recommend that you understand what's out there for universities and their programs, more importantly than even what is a short-term program. Now, ideally, the next step is to book a Zoom meeting or a phone call with the admission officer. We're here to help you and we're eager to have that conversation. It's the best way to ask your questions. Make sure that you fully understand what programs are offered, what it's going to look like as an international student. And also, this may be unconventional, but admission officers know so much about not only their university, but many others as well. So if you have that conversation, it's not looking like it's the right fit, go ahead and ask them because you never know what an admission officer has insight into. We spend so much time at fairs together, so much time presenting in the virtual world. We actually know each other's programs pretty well, and we might be able to point you in the right direction. Now, the other option is to consider non-degree seeking courses. Non-degree seeking means that you're taking classes in a particular field, but without the intention of finishing with a degree or a diploma from the school. This can be great for those short-term options, but make sure that you really understand what the restrictions are for a non-degree seeking student. At SCAD, non-degree seeking students do not qualify for scholarships from SCAD, so that can be an important factor to keep in mind and just make sure that you understand what that's going to look like for you. Now, taking a look at the steps of pursuing that graduate program, of course, applying is an important step. For some universities, that's going to look different, that very first step, whether it's just getting your name in the database, connecting with an individual, or it's going to be applying all at once. So again, it's important to know what that's going to look like. Complete that application. Make sure that you have everything in mind from that portfolio to letters of recommendation. All of those materials are going to be important in your evaluation for the admission into the program. Now, visiting. While travel is certainly something that's not accessible right now, the virtual world is a great opportunity to get to know a school better. We are all offering virtual tours of our places as well as workshops. You can even sometimes sit in on a class. So make sure you understand what each university has to offer. It's a really great way to get to know faculty members. You can reach out to the admission officers, and you can also speak to students who are in the classes themselves. And of course, connect with us via social media programs or the admission officers themselves. I would say I know that virtual burnout is absolutely happening right now, but that in mind, the universities are being more and more creative as to what we can offer you guys, trying to make it more interesting, more collaborative, more engaging. So go out there and explore what those options are because it is really a great way to get to know these universities. Now, I'm going to wrap up by touching on STEM programs. Students and parents alike are often surprised to learn that there are so many programs of study in the creative field that fall under STEM. And for those of you who are maybe not familiar, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, this combination of the right and left brain is a perfect fit for students looking to combine their talents and their interests. It's also a fantastic opportunity to extend what is called OPT in the US. Now, OPT stands for Optional Practical Training, and it's an opportunity for students to work in the US for a certain amount of time following the completion of their degree. So with a STEM major, you can work in the States for up to 3 years after you graduate. It's a fantastic way to work for major companies and gain that international experience. It also is a great doorway into working into the US through that F1 visa and taking advantage of OPT. Trying to work in the US without first studying here can be very challenging as an international student, so it's something else to keep in mind. When you consider your future right now and you're asking yourself, what do I want to do? Where do I want to work? If those companies are located in the US, come study here first. It's a great international opportunity and then work opportunity as well. And keeping in mind these STEM programs to actually extend your time here in the US. So I hope that information was helpful in getting you started in this research process. I know it can be quite daunting, but please know that we're really here to help you. So the best way to start out is simply reaching out. As you can see there, those are my contact details. I'll be sure to leave them in the chat as well. And I invite Sandra to come back on. I'm going to leave it on the last slide there.